All right, so for the lesson for today, we're going to talk about slope, and we're going to look at slope 4 different ways. So we'll look at slope from an equation, slope from a graph, slope from a table of values, and slope from two ordered pairs. So we'll just start off in the middle box here, and you'll get these notes where it says, what is slope? Hold on, guys, to make sure that's circle. All right, so here, slope. Hold on, let me get my pen up. Slope is a number that describes the steepness, and you'll just fill in your notes, and direction of a line. Slope is a number that describes the steepness and direction of a line. And we're not going to worry about this part right here. I'll fill that in later, okay? So I'm going to go back up to number 1. To find the slope from an equation, all you need to do is have your equation in what we call slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form is when you have y by itself. And since we're in summer school, guys, I'm just going to stick with those that already have y by itself. But you should realize that you will have equations that don't have y by itself, and you'll have to solve for y in order to get the slope. But we're not going to do that in summer school since we only have one day to cover this topic. Yours will already be in slope-intercept form, which means, again, y will already be by itself. All right, so this letter M is known as our slope. Our slope is always attached to the variable x. So slope is also known as the rate of change. You'll also see that. And if you join my Google Meets or you were in my class, you already know slope can be described as the rate of change. So it's described as the rate of change, and it's the coefficient of x. The coefficient of x is just the number that is attached to x. So whatever is attached to x is your slope. But again, you must make sure you have y by itself, okay? So let's take a look at some examples right here. What's the slope for the first equation, y equals to 5x minus 1? Well, y is by itself, and what is attached to x? The coefficient of x is 5, so m equals 5. The slope is 5. On number 2, y is by itself, so it's in what we call slope-intercept form. The coefficient of x is 1/5, so m is 1/5. It's just that simple. You just pick the number attached to x, and it represents m, which is your slope. 3, y is by itself, so you can just pick the number attached to x, your coefficient of x, and it's your slope. Your slope is -1/2. We're not going to talk about y-intercept or anything like that today. Today is just slope. So it's very easy to see how to find the slope from an equation, all right? And so that's number 1. On number 2, and again, guys, to find the slope from an equation, make sure y is by itself. But to find the slope from a graph, all you need to do is calculate rise over run. So you're going to use this formula, rise over run, to find the slope from a graph. Rise can either go up or it can go down. And run can go to the right or it can go to the left. But you want to make sure that you rise before you run. If you rise up, it's positive. If you rise down, it's negative. If you go to the right, it's positive. If you go to the left, it's negative. All right, so all you're going to do if you're trying to find a slope from a graph, and you may remember this from class when we went over it, you just need to pick 2 points on the line. 2 points you can read. Like you wouldn't pick something like this. You can't name that ordered pair, so don't pick it. So pick something like this. Okay, I can name this ordered pair as -1, -2, -3, -4. That's the ordered pair -4, 0. Now you don't have to You don't have to name it, but you need to be able to name it if you pick it. If you're not capable of naming it without estimating it, don't pick that point. All right, now I need to pick one more that I can read. Okay, I know I can read this one. That's to the right 1 and up 3. So that's the 0.13. So I'm good to go with that one. But again, you don't have to write 1, 3. You just need to be able to pick it or name it after you pick it, okay? All right, so what I'm going to do is draw a triangle on this, or right triangle. But I'm going to make sure that I rise before I run. And it's just like driving on streets. If you start here and you're trying to make it here, then what you want to do is, just like you got a car, stay on the black lines, because those are the roads. Okay, you can't go up and cut like this because you're going through people's houses. And if you're in that white spot, you're going through people's houses. So stay on the black lines. So I'm going to start here, and I'm going to rise. I see that I'm rising 1, 2, 3 units. So my rise here is 3. And then run. Well, which way are you going to go to get to this other dot? You got to go to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units. Okay, so your rise over your run is 3/5, which means your slope is 3/5. Now, that's not the only way you could have gotten the slope. Okay, I'm going to erase this and show you. I still could have chosen those 2 points, but I didn't have to start at the point on the bottom. I could have started right here, and I could have ended here. But if I'm in a car and I'm starting here and I want to drive to this point, okay, over here, then what I'll do is I'll go down 1, 2, 3. Okay, so my rise in this particular case, since I'm going down, would be negative. So it'd be -3. And my run, well, which way would you have to turn to get to this point here? You have to turn left. And going left is associated with being negative. So I'm going to go left 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you get -3 over -5, but we all know that a negative divided by negative is still a positive, okay? So it doesn't matter where you start or where you end. Just draw the triangle and pretend like you're driving on the roads, and make sure you rise before you run. Please do not calculate this part first. Don't go sideways first. Always up or down first, okay? Then left or right. Okay. All right, I hope we understand that. Always rise before you run. If I asked you to run right now, you would have to stand up or you would have to rise first, okay? All right, let's take a look at this second one. All right, I'm going to pick 2 points I can read on this one. Okay, so I can read. Let me make it bigger so you can see. I can read this. That's -1, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. -1, 5. And it looks like I can also read this one for sure. That's 1, -2. So on this one, I'm going to calculate rise over run. So I want to make this smaller so you can see exactly which one I'm on. I'm on number 2, the second one, okay? The second graph. Okay, so now I want to rise before I run. I always tend to start from the bottom point just because I associate rise with going up. That's just what I do. But you could have started from the top and went down. But I'm going to start from the bottom and go up. So I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Hold on, guys. Okay. Yes, I'm going to go up again. I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's a rise of 7. It went up. And this time I'm turning to the left. So since I'm turning to the left, it's going to be negative, -1, -2. So my slope is 7 over -2, or you can write the negative with the bar, or you can write the negative with the 7. It doesn't matter. Your slope is still -7/2. Either way it goes. All right, so what about the slope of a graph that is horizontal or vertical? All right, if your graph is horizontal, it will have what we call a zero slope, basically a zero steepness to it. It's not steep at all. And then if your graph is vertical, it will have what we call an undefined slope. If your slope is 0, your x is, not your x, but your y. Your y is constant. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So this is the point 0, 2. This is the point 1, 2. This is the point 3, 2. 0, 2. This is the point 1, 2. This is the point 3, 2. But if you look at these, no matter what point I name, my y is always 2. In other words, my y is the same. So when your y's are the same, you get a slope of 0. Let me write that a little better. In this particular case, x is constant. And if I name this point right here, that's to the left 2 and up 1. So that would be -2, 1. If I name this point, it would be -2, 2. If I name this point, it would be -2, -1. But when you have a vertical line, your x's are the same, or they're constant, okay? So just something to remember. Horizontal line slope is 0, and you might want to put that. Vertical line, your slope is undefined. So you're going to have to try to remember that, okay? Horizontal line, slope is 0. Vertical line, the slope is undefined. All right. So now we know how to find the slope from an equation. We know how to find the slope from a graph. You're going to use rise over run. And I guess I should go back and put the slope here. Okay, let's take a look at this one. To find the slope from a table. To find the slope from a table, this is what you're going to use. And some of you may remember this already. You're going to use this symbol, which means the change in y over the change in x. Change in y over the change in x. So all you're going to do, on this one it says find the constant rate of change in your y. So basically, that's where that change in y comes from. That doesn't mean triangle, that means change in y. 2, find the constant rate of change in your x. So we just say change in x like that. We just write the little triangle symbol, which means delta is delta x. It means change. All right, so then you're going to write it as a fraction. You're going to put the change in y on top, which is why I have it on top of this. And then you're going to put the change of y in your denominator on the bottom. So you're going to write it as a fraction, and you're going to simplify. All right, so what I'm going to do is figure out, I'm going to pick 2 points. I don't care what 2 points you pick. So let's write a little note right here. I'm going to do this before number 1. I'm going to do this. Put a little asterisk because I taught you a little different. Pick 2 points from the table. That's what I want you to do first. Pick 2 points from the table, then do this. So this will be more like our number 1, and this will be more like our number 2, our number 3, and our number 4, okay? Pick 2 points from the table, find the constant rate of change in y, find the rate of change in x, set it up as a fraction, and simplify. So I'm going to pick 2 points. It doesn't matter what 2 points. So I can pick that ordered pair, and let's pick another one. I'll pick that ordered pair. And I know they have these arrows going to each one of them, but don't pay attention to that. I taught you all how to do it differently. So I want to know, start off with your y, because we're doing the change in y first, okay? After we pick our 2 points, we're going to find the change in y first. What am I doing to a 6 to get to 12? What am I doing to 6 to get to 12? Well, you're adding something. That means you're adding 6, because 6 plus 6 is 12. So in this particular case, the change in y is a positive 6. Now I need to know, what am I doing to negative 3 to get to 0? To get from negative 3 to 0, I got to go up 3. So I'm adding 3. And then just simplify. Set up as a fraction. If I simplify it, it's 2. So the slope here is 2. Now I'm going to show you it doesn't matter what 2 points you pick. Once you find the change in y over the change in x and simplify, you're going to end up with the same slope. So just to show you, I'm going to pick 2 different points. So I'm still going to pick this first one. But then suppose I pick this one. Doesn't matter what 2, just pick 2, okay? So now you're going to ask yourself, what am I doing to 6 to get to 24? Well, you're adding 18. So in this particular case, the change of y would be 18. But then you have to say to you, let me write that better. Then you have to say to yourself, what are you doing to negative 3 to get to 6? Well, if you go from negative 3 to 0, you're going up 3. And if you go from 0 to a 6, you've gone up 6 more, which means you've gone up a total of 9. Negative 3 plus 9 will give me the 6. So the change of x would be 9. And when you simplify, you still get a slope of 2. So again, I don't care what 2 points you pick, just pick 2 and then find the change in y and compare it to the change in x and simplify the fraction. And let's take a look at what we do from an ordered pair. To find slope from an ordered pair, and you may remember this. You're going to label your first ordered pair as x of 1 and y sub 1. So I'll label this as x of 1 and y sub 1. That means the first x and first y. Then you're going to label your next ordered pair as x sub 2 and y sub 2. That just means your second x and your second y. Now, after you label your points, what you're going to use m equals y sub 2 minus y sub 1 divided by x sub 2 minus x sub 1. They call this the slope formula. So you use that. When you use it, that means you plug the numbers in. You plug in your y sub 2, you plug in your y sub 1, plug in your x sub 2, and plug in your x sub 1. And then you're going to solve and simplify. So let's practice. So on this first one, I already have my x sub 1 and y sub 1, my x sub 2 and y sub 2. Remember, every ordered pair consists of an x and a y. So what I'll do now is I'll use the slope formula. Y sub 2 minus y sub 1 divided by x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Well, if you look, it's asking for the second y first. The second y is 9. So you write 9 minus, and then it asks you to write the first y. According to what I have labeled, the first y is 3. So I'll write 9 minus 3 divided by the second x, and the second x is labeled as 5. So it's 5 minus the first x. The first x is 2. So minus 2. And then you just solve it. 9 minus 3 is 6. 5 minus 2 is 3. And you simplify. 6 divided by 3 is 2. So the slope of this one is m equals to 2. Okay. You can pause the video and try the next ordered pair, the two ordered pairs if you like. All right, this is what you should have gotten. You should label this as the first x and first y, and this one as the second x and second y. And then use the slope formula, y sub 2 minus y sub 1 divided by x sub 2 minus x sub 1. So according to what I have labeled, my second y, or y sub 2, is negative 5. So I'm going to write negative 5 minus y sub 1. Y sub 1 is 2. And then x sub 2, according to what I have labeled, is 5 minus, and it should be x sub 1, minus x sub 1. X sub 1, according to what I have labeled, is negative 2. So when you subtract the negative, make sure to put it inside of parentheses. So both of these go to the left, so I end up with negative 7. And this is a double negative. It's the same as a plus. So I end up with negative. I'm going to write this in black so you can see it better. So you end up with 5 plus 2, which is 7. But when you simplify, negative 7 divided by 7 is negative 1. So you get a slope of negative 1. All right, so we've just learned how to find a slope 4 ways. Okay, number 1, how to find a slope from an equation. The slope is always attached to the variable x. It acts as the coefficient of x. Number 2, how to find a slope from a graph. To find a slope from a graph, you're going to use rise over run, and make sure you draw a triangle for me. Pick 2 points and draw a triangle and calculate rise over run. If it's a flat line or a horizontal line, the slope is 0. If it's a vertical line, your slope is undefined. We've also learned how to find a slope from a table of values. Number 1, you pick 2 points, then find a change of y, find a change of x, and simplify it, okay? Write it as a fraction. Change your y on top, change your x on the bottom. Doesn't matter what 2 points you pick. And we've also learned how to find a slope from two ordered pairs. You just use the slope formula, y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1, okay? And make sure you label your points so you know what to put where. And we're going to practice a few, and then I'm going to let you work on your homework. And notice it says do all circle problems for homework, guys. So anything that's circle, I definitely won't do because you have to do it for homework. All right, 1 says which letter represents a slope? Well, slope is always attached to x, so m represents slope. That's the letter we use to represent slope, and it's always attached to x. All right, on 2, it says what's the slope for that equation? Well, y is by itself, and what's attached to x? Negative 1/4. On 5, y is by itself. What's attached to x? Negative 2, so your slope is negative 2. Okay, that's all from an equation. Okay, done. But if you'll notice, the other ones also have, like number 6, it says find the slope of line 1. Well, these are graphs. So now I have to find the slope from a graph. To find the slope from a graph, again, you just pick 2 points, and it looks like they already picked the 2 points for us. I don't like that, guys. So I prefer something like this that we had. Okay, where you have to look at it and pick your own 2 points. Like here's a point and here's a point you can read. And then you draw your triangle to calculate rise over run. I don't like it when they automatically give you the 2 points. But we'll use what they gave us for line 1. All right, so here they gave us the 2 points. So I'm going to calculate the rise and the run. So M, and I do it right here, M equals rise over run. So the rise is 2, up 2. Remember, I always start at the bottom point, but you can start at the top and go down. But if you do that, your rise is negative. And I'm turning to the right to get to this point. I'm turning to the right, 1, 2, 3. So the run is 3. Now, if you had went down and left, that would be -2 over -3, which is still positive 2/3. So the slope here is 2/3. Now I'm going to show you something. You did not have to choose those 2 points that they had given you. Okay. I could have chosen something else. You can choose any 2 points you want to, as long as you can read them. So I could have chosen that point, but I also could have chosen this point because I can read it. That's to the right 2 and up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 2, 6. So I could have chosen that one too. So you don't have to pick the ones that they give you. So suppose I would have chosen something like that. So my rise would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have a rise of 6. And I will run to the right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. But if you simplify it, divide them both by 3, you still get 2/3 for line 1. So of course you don't have to use the 2 points that they have selected for you. You can choose whatever 2 points you need to or that you want to, as long as you can read them. All right, so I'm going to look at line 2. Let me go ahead and write the slope of line 1 was 2/3. All right, but for line 2 is a vertical line. So if it's vertical, your slope is what we call undefined, or M is undefined. I'm going to write it over here. For a vertical line, M would be undefined. Your slope is undefined. It doesn't exist. And I'm not going to do all of these, guys. I'm just kind of picking and choosing. All right, look at line 3. Find a slope. I will use the 2 points that they gave us. So I'm going to rise 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have a rise of 5. And I'm running to the left. So be careful because you're turning left. So that's going to be -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, -6, -7, -8. So your run is -8. And it's already simplified. So your slope is -5/8. Now you can write that the way you want to. You can put the negative with the 5. You can put the negative with the 8. You can put the negative with the bar. I really don't care. All right, let's take a look at another one. Trying to find a flat line. Oh, here we go, line 4. Let's look at line 4, guys. Line 4 is flat, okay? I can already tell you it has a slope of 0. A flat line is also known as a horizontal line. And keep in mind, slope is steepness. So if it's flat, it's not steep at all. It's like traveling along a road that's flat. Okay, on a bicycle, it takes 0 effort to travel along it because you're not pulling any hills because it's flat or it's horizontal. So the slope is 0 again because it's 0 steepness. So the slope of line 4 is 0. Okay, that's all I'm going to do for equations and for graphs here, okay? So we need more practice for equation and more practice for graphs. All right, now you're going to do all those circle problems. So you're going to look at all those graphs. And I need you to do this one too. Sorry about that. You need to do 14, circle 14. Go ahead and do that right now because it's not going to be circled on your paper. So go ahead and circle it now. All right, so you're going to do all of those. Find the slopes. I need you to make sure that you use rise over run on these. And make sure you pick 2 points. Okay. And use rise over run after you draw a right triangle. Well, you should know how to rise and run. Pick 2 points and calculate rise and run. Now, if it's horizontal, it's a slope of 0. If it's vertical, the slope's undefined, okay? Vertical means straight up and down. So you're going to do all those for homework. I'm going to skip all that. Okay, so the next section is calculating slope from a table. I've already shown you how to calculate slope from a table. To calculate slope from a table, you need to make sure you use the change of y over the change of x. And I'm going to show you something else that I showed you in class this past year too, after we do this. And I won't be doing all of these. I'm just going to pick a few. So I'm going to start off with something like number 3. Okay, it says find the slope. So again, all you have to do is pick 2 points. So you're still going to pick 2 points. So let me write that. Let me go back and write that. Pick. Here you're going to pick 2 points. And then find or calculate the change of y over the change of x. Okay? All right, so let's choose 2 points. Let's choose these. If you don't like dealing with negatives, then don't deal with them. You can erase it. You don't have to deal with that. I could choose these 2. That's simple. Don't choose the negatives if you have a hard time dealing with them. So just ask yourself, what do you do to 0 to get to 6? Remember to start with the y first because the y is going on top. What do you do with 0 to get to 6? Well, you add 6. So I know in this particular case, the change of y is 6. Now I just need to calculate the change of x. What are you doing from 0 to get to 2? Well, you add 2. And then simplify. So we end up with a slope of 3. That's all you do. All right, I'm going to skip around. Let's look at number 7. All right, number 7, let's pick 2 points. These look easy. It's got 0, 0 in it. Okay. All right, let me not use this one. I want to use 0, 0. Let's use these 2. Y'all need to get used to working with negatives. So now we're going to find the change of y over the change of x. So you're going to ask yourself, what are you doing from negative 6 to get to negative 3? Well, you're at negative 6. You got to go up 3 to get to negative 3. So the change of y is 3. And what are you doing to negative 4 to get to negative 2? Well, you're adding 2. You're going up 2. So your slope is 3 over 2, or 3/2. Now, I'm going to show you something because some people hate using what I'm doing right now, the change of y or the change in x. So if you absolutely hate doing that, then don't do it. After you pick 2 points, you can do something else. I'm about to show you, so pay attention. If you don't like this method, I'm going to show you another one. Okay, so I'm going to erase this. You don't have to use the change of y over the change of x after you pick those 2 points. Show you what you could use, guys. So you got your 2 points picked, right? Write them down. Negative 4, negative 6. And then negative 2, negative 3. So if you have those 2 points written down, you can do what you did up here on this part where it says find from 2 ordered pairs. So you could just use the slope formula, y sub 2 minus y sub 1 divided by x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Okay, after you pick your 2 points. So I'm going to go back. So this is your second option. If you don't like the change in y over the change of x, you can label this as x sub 1, and I'm going to do it in a different color. X sub 1, y sub 1. And you can label this one as x sub 2 and y sub 2. And you can use the slope formula. M equals y sub 2 minus y sub 1 divided by x sub 2 minus x sub 1. So the second y is negative 3, and I'm going to need more room. The second y is negative 3 minus the first y, which is negative 6, so you're subtracting a negative, divided by the second x, which is negative 2, minus the first x, which is negative 4. I'm going to write those in red so you can see them better. And then this is a double negative. Matter of fact, I'm going to write this whole thing over because that's bothering me. I'm going to write the slope formula up here. Y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. And I'm going to do the work down here, okay? The second y is negative 3 minus the first y, which is negative 6, divided by the second x, which is negative 2, minus the first x, which is negative 4. So you really have negative 3 plus 6 and negative 2 plus 4. Well, negative 3 plus 6 is 3, and negative 2 plus 4 is 2. So you still get a slope of 3/2. Okay. So if you don't like using the change of y over the change of x, after you pick your 2 points, use the slope formula, okay? It's going to be up to you. I preferably like the change of y over the change of x. And I'm going to stick with that. So I'm going to look at number 4. Number 4, I'm going to stick with the change of y over the change of x, but I'm going to pick my 2 points. So I'm going to do 510 and 520. So do your y's first. What are you doing to 10 to get to 20? Well, you're adding 10. 10 plus 10 is 20. Then what are you doing to 5 to get to 5? Well, you're adding nothing, so you're adding 0. So you all should know when you divide by 0, it's impossible. You can't take a group of 10 and say, hey, get into a group of 0, okay? It doesn't make any sense. So in this particular case, if 0 is under the bar, the slope is undefined because it's impossible to divide by 0. And I just remember that 0 is under the bar. And under starts with UNDE, and undefined starts with UNDE. So 0 is under the bar after you find the change of y with the change of x. It's undefined. If 0 is on top of the bar, the slope is 0. So let's take a look at one like that, okay? Okay, let's look at 9. I'm going to find the change of y over the change of x. Here to get from 10 to 10, I'm adding nothing, 0. And to get from, and I chose those 2 points, guys. I chose these two. If you haven't figured that out yet. To get from 5 to 10, you add 5. But 0 is on top of the bar, so the slope is just 0. The only time the slope is undefined if 0 is under the bar, UNDE. All right, that's how you find the slope from tables. All right, we're not going to do anything here. Okay, these are your problems for homework, the ones that are circled. I'll print these notes. And also these that are circled, you're just finding the slope from the equations there. Just look at what's attached to x. Guys, I'm going to say something. On 26, this is what you have. What's attached to x? Everybody should understand it's an understood 1, okay? So we should know the slope is 1 on 26. Okay, and this is the last part. And I'll just do a few of these, but you should know how to do it already. All right, so to find the slope from 2 ordered pairs, you got to use the slope formula. Y sub 2 minus y sub 1 divided by x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Okay, so we'll do that when we have 2 ordered pairs. So I'm just going to start off with something like number 6. We got to label your points first. X sub 1, y sub 1. X sub 2, y sub 2. And then you can just use your slope formula. And plug in. Well, according to this, the second y is negative 2. Minus the first y, which is 6. Okay, and then according to what we have labeled, the second x is negative 8. Minus the first x, which is 12. And both of these go to the left, so I end up with negative 8. Both of the bottom ones go to the left, which is negative 20. So we end up with positive 8 over 20. A negative divided by a negative is a positive. And I can simplify this. I can divide them both by 4. So I end up with 2 over 5. So the slope is 2/5. And that's all you do. Okay, let's pick another one. Let's pick something like, let's do number 5. Okay, I'm going to do number 5. I'm going to label this as x of 1 and y sub 1, x of 2 and y sub 2. And I'm just going to use the slope form. I'm going to do it up here. So you have m equals to the second y minus the first y divided by the second x minus the first x. So according to what I have labeled, the second y is negative 7. So I'm going to write negative 7 minus the first y. The first y is negative 5. Remember, when you subtract a negative, put it in parentheses. Divided by the second x. The second x, according to what I have labeled, is 2. Minus the first x. The first x, according to what I have labeled, is negative 5. So I'm subtracting a negative. Put it in parentheses. And this double negative is a positive, and this double negative is a positive. So on the top, I end up with negative 7 plus 5, which is negative 2, and 2 plus 5, which is positive 7. So the slope is just negative 2/7, guys. All right, let me do some that are special. Let's do 10. 10 is different. All right, x sub 1, y sub 1, x sub 2, and y sub 2. All right, so I'm going to do the work up here. And you make sure you do 9. Y'all do it on notebook paper, guys, since I'm writing this all in your way. Okay, so m is equal to y sub 2 minus y sub 1 divided by x sub 2 minus x sub 1. The second y is 10 minus the first y, which is also 10. So if you'll notice, your y's are the same on number 10. The second x is 1 minus the first x, which is negative 1. This is a double negative. It's a plus. So it's 0 over 2. But when 0 is on top, the slope is 0. Okay? But you should notice that your y's are the same. So again, if your y's are the same, the slope is 0. And we went over that up here. So I can find it. I probably erased it. Okay, so if you look right here, it says your y is constant. Your slope is 0. But when your x is constant, your slope is undefined. So basically, when your y's are the same, your slope's 0. When your x's are the same, the slope's undefined. That's what constant means. It means the same. Okay, and I realized I forgot to fill this in. So for a graph, this is what you should have had on this first page. The first thing you should have done is pick 2 points that are on the graph, okay? Okay, make a right triangle. Count the rise and then count the run. And then write it as a fraction and simplify. That's what that should have on it, okay? Sorry about that. I didn't even see it. All right, go back down. Let's just do one more problem on this, but make sure you pause this if you need to and write this down. All right, so let's go back to this last page. Let's go back and look at something like number 7. All right, looking at number 7 on this last page. Your x's are the same. So if your x's are the same, you should expect an undefined slope. But let's just see if we get that. To get an undefined slope, what's under the bar will have to be a 0. Small labels is x of 1, y sub 1, x of 2, and y sub 2. And use the slope formula. So the second y is 0 minus the first y, which is 7. The second x is 5 minus the first x, which is also 5. 0 minus 7 is negative 7, but 5 minus 5 is 0. If 0 is under the bar, the slope is undefined. Okay, but again, that's what I expected to get because my x's were constant. They were the same. All right, so your job is to do the circle problems on the notes. And you can write the answers on notebook paper, or you can do it all on this paper right here on the notes, okay? All right, that's it. Thank you.